is easy to define. Steady living bring you peace of mind. But would you ever trip my line? Steady living, a change of lifestyle. Steady living with my body.
Welcome back to the Peach Permaculture Farm in the Spokane Valley. It's May 26th, and we're just trying to keep up with the changes of the weather. We've been planting our first several rows of mixed plants here, and we're trying to put in a bit of a variety to try and make it hard for the bugs to hone in on a target. We've got a bug mix of flowers that will emerge from the center or from the middle of each bed. We've put the manure on top of all our made raised beds that we have up so far, and we've just been keeping up with the general upkeep of plants. And then the next week we really need as much help as we can possibly get to help transplant all these little babies out into the field and to plant seeds all over in the field, to fix up some irrigation lines on our big line, and to help distribute bedding plants that some are for sale and some of them are to be given away in lower income neighborhoods around the Spokane area. We need as many people as we can to help go door to door offering plants to families so that they can grow some of their own food if they haven't started already. We've got a bunch of kale and romaine lettuce that went into these beds here, with a strip down the middle of each bed of bug mix that includes a lot of daisies, calendula and other things that'll draw the bugs, the beneficial insects in. Our fence is pretty well sealed up. The plants are moving out of the greenhouse to live out in the real world on their own. Our first irrigation line is all set up, so the first section of our farm should be all planted by the end of the week. I think we just went into a water sign after the new moon, so it's a prime time to finish sprouting all the seeds that we have. So we're going to move north from here. We're going to keep on moving more north in segments. We might skip a chunk here and there depending on how the irrigation works out. We need to get the rest of our irrigation pipes laid out and functioning and running. From when we tilled originally to knock down the big weeds and loosen up the soil so we could work with it, we've got a carpet of weeds that are coming back up in this spot. You know, Mother Nature will always fill every gap you leave her, so we're going to have to do some serious hula hoeing and planting and get our chosen ones picked and in the ground. At this point, we're behind on everything we've got, so every seed needs to be in the ground. Right around May 20th again this year, we had a good freeze, and we'd had our very favorite tomato plants that were ready to be sold as bedding plants in 3-inch pots, root bound. All the tallest and nicest ones were outside on the table, and they all froze. What we learned is that plants are better kept on the ground. The ground retains some heat. We had some plants that were mislabeled and therefore ready to be given away, and they were sitting on the ground and they did just fine. But everything that was raised up on a table outside froze pretty bad. We had a few survivors out of a few hundred tomato plants, and I've labeled them cold proven, and we'll go ahead and keep those for ourselves. Maybe they'll last a week longer in the fall. So that's the one benefit we got out of it, is we got some genetic selection down. We were trying to clean the greenhouse out a little bit and make space for new things like our melons and our cucumbers and our squash, because we have so much to do in prepping our field that we decided to go ahead and sprout our melons, squash, and cucumbers inside where they'd be warm all night long. Perhaps we'll get a faster and better, more reliable germination rate, and then we'll transplant them out as we have the field ready for them. But while we were doing that, we moved a lot of our best tomatoes outside to make room, and then to have them exposed to a couple nights cool so that they could go out and be hardy and ready for sale or ready for planting in a field or a garden. But unfortunately the freeze settled in, and everything that was up off the ground froze pretty bad, with the exception of a few, which we're labeling cold proof and keeping for ourselves, hoping that potentially we can save some seeds from those fruit, and we'll have to try them out over the next few years. Maybe we'll get lucky and end up with a tomato plant that's a little bit cold hardier. Come get your bedding plants. We've got more bedding plants than we know what to do with. We've got chilies, we've got 38 kinds of tomato plant, and lettuce. You know, the lettuce grows so well and so happy in those those 6-hole pony 6-packs, and it tends to dry out really fast, and it just really needs to go in the ground into some gardens. So if anybody needs some plants, come on by 32nd and Evergreen, just east of Evergreen on Best Road. You'll see us from 32nd out here at the Big Red Barn. So we've got tons and tons of potting plants ready to go. Of the bedding plants for sale, we have a lot of tomatoes, which include Taxi Toms, Brandywines, Green Zebras, Striped German, Principe Borghese or Borghese. We've got Romas. We've got heirloom tall vines, heirloom short lines, heirloom rose. We have Jubilees, Golden Nuggets, just to list a few. With the green peppers and with all the sweet peppers and bell peppers, we're probably going to keep most of those for the field. Of course, if someone wants to come in and grab a few peppers to put in with their basil and their tomatoes, we can always part with a few here and there. But we're not really trying to market or put the peppers out front. Same thing with the herbs. You know, if a person really needs some variety, you know, it's great when you're planting your lettuces or your tomatoes or anything you're planting. It's great to plant in a variety so that you have a little biodiversity. It's the easiest way to protect against insect invasion, and it's also one of the best ways to utilize your space, especially if you have shallow rooting crops next to deep rooting crops. You can plant them fairly close together and really maximize your space. So we have a lot of herbs and a lot of flowers, you know, a lot of daisies, a lot of calendula and other types of marigolds, and a fair amount of dill started. Dill is great for the insects, and of course it's great to put at the end of a row of cucumbers, for we all know why. So if anybody's looking for a couple herbs to go with all your plants, you know, stick your head back here in the greenhouse, come find one of us, and we can certainly hook you up. We don't necessarily put all of the herbs and the peppers out front because it didn't end up with quite as many as we thought. Do have a lot of extra tomatoes though. Have a good amount of lettuce that's looking really well. And we have a lot of eggplant that's looking absolutely marvelous. Well, we've learned that peppers don't necessarily have the best germination rate. At least certain kinds of peppers don't. So we thought we would have a bigger selection of a bigger variety of pepper than we really do. In the end, we have a lot of hot peppers that will hold until next fall, and they'll be sold in bigger pots, or in small terracotta pots, but pots up to 1 gallon in size. That's what we'll do with most of the ornamental peppers. The ground out here dries up really fast. We've got really great drainage, so we need to acquire as much mulch material as we can. So if anybody has or knows of a stack of old hay, hay has become quite the commodity nowadays. We don't need our hay to be especially nice or green or anything else. We just need it to be some organic material to cover over the tops of our beds. And straw would work fine. Hay is also great. So if anybody has some any more compost or any kind of brown material that we can use as mulch, we'd really appreciate that.
Steady living is easy to